Hello again, and welcome to day 3 of year 3, week 1 of the Religious Education Initiative. In this year 3, we will read the Gospel according to Matthew on the third day of each week. This Gospel is similar in its content to the Gospels of Mark and Luke, and together with them the three are called the Synoptic Gospels. They all roughly give the same narrative, but they draw out and emphasize different details, different points. So the Gospel of Matthew gives somewhat less historical detail than Luke, but he also provides much more of Jesus' actual preaching than Mark gives. One particular concern of St. Matthew that we will see time and again is the connection of what the Lord did in his ministry with the prophecies in the Old Testament that he fulfilled. And we'll see these prophecies referenced time and again throughout the year. St. Matthew begins his gospel account then by providing a genealogy of the Lord, his ancestry according to the flesh, going back to Abraham. This is a boring reading, so we do it this week before everyone's really on board. But you all get to be here if you're listening, so let's go. Let's get bored with a bunch of names. So, this is chapter 1 of the Gospel of Matthew. Verse 1, an account of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the Anointed One, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, and Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Aram, and Aram the father of Aminadab, and Aminadab the father of Nachshon, and Nachshon the father of Salmon, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. And David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah, and Solomon the father of Rehoboam, and Rehoboam the father of Abijah, and Abijah the father of Asaph, and Asaph the father of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat the father of Joram, and Joram the father of Uzziah, and Uzziah the father of Jotham, and Jotham the father of Ahaz, and Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, and Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, and Manasseh the father of Amos, and Amos the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. And after the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Salathiel, and Salathiel the father of Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel the father of Abiud, and Abiud the father of Eliakim, and Eliakim the father of Azor, and Azor the father of Zadok, and Zadok the father of Achim, and Achim the father of Eliud, and Eliud the father of Eleazar, and Eleazar the father of Matthan, and Matthan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah, the Christ, the Anointed One. So, all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations, and from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. Now, what in the world can we say that's remotely interesting about just a list of names? Well, let's see what we can do. First, there's the bit that Matthew emphasizes himself when he talks about the genealogy as being effectively 3 groups of 14 generations. This doesn't have an immediate significance to us, but if we can remember the importance of the number 7 as the number of completion, 7 days in which the creation was made, then we have not 3 14s, but 6 7s, which means that the Lord himself comes as the beginning of the 7th set of generations. He is the one who completes everything that we have here before, from Abraham all the way through the patriarchs and the fathers and the prophets. So this makes sense with what Matthew is talking about. He's emphasizing Jesus as the fulfillment of prophecy, and if he's already fulfilling the generations that have looked for the coming of the Messiah, being himself the Messiah, then this makes sense. He is himself the seventh day, the seventh week, the completion of all of this waiting. So that's one thing we can point out. The other thing we should make mention of, he doesn't just give the male line. On several occasions, he points out who the mothers were. But what's interesting, what's surprising, what we have to emphasize is that none of these mothers are the ones that you would think he would emphasize. I'm not going to go into all the details, but these are effectively all of the skeletons in the closet of the house of David. All of the embarrassing, oh yeah, she was, that guy's mother, where she came from, we don't like to talk about that. She was with us now, and everything is fine, and all of that is washed away and forgotten, but where she started, well, we don't really want to go there. Matthew is pulling this out. Why? Why is he airing the dirty laundry? Why is he opening up the closet to show all the skeletons that are hanging in there? I think that the idea here is that Christ is not just the fulfillment of the promises to the house of Israel, but is also the fulfillment of the promises to all of the nations, because these women who come in and become part of the genealogy of the Messiah are, I think without exception, foreigners. They are not of the house of Israel. They come in from the nations, and yet they become part of the Lord's economy, Lord's work of salvation. So they are already kind of anchor points, promise points of the salvation, not just of the house of Israel, but of that role of Abraham's descendants to be a blessing to the entire world, to all the nations of the world, and a sign of the Lord's forgiveness and grace and of repentance. The other thing that we can suggest is that although this is a matter of a great deal of argument and discussion, I've seen it suggested, and I think it's from what I know at least, it's a strong argument. It makes sense that this is not actually the genealogy of Joseph the betrothed. Forgive the beep. This is rather the genealogy of the Virgin Mary, and it says then that Jacob is the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, because he's his father-in-law. But this is to show the no, hang on, I'm getting mixed up. That's Luke's gospel that gives Mary's genealogy. This does seem to be Joseph's genealogy, but showing then the generations as they come through. So ignore me. Even though I'm putting this on a video, I'll be the first to admit I make mistakes. So don't listen to that last part, but be attentive to the fact that we get two different genealogies of the Lord in the Gospels. Luke gives one account, Matthew gives another. They're not the same genealogy. Why that is an interesting question, and one worth digging into, because it means something, as everything means something. And as a spoiler, it doesn't mean that the Gospel writers were just making things up from whole cloth and it's all a lie. They're pointing out and emphasizing different aspects here. So, with that, we'll wrap up for this week. God bless you all. We'll see you next week for the week 2 of the Religious Education Initiative.